Happy Thursday. Welcome to the next episode of the Estate Planning Expert Series, where I interview experts on the topic to help financial advisors grow. Today's show is all about building a next-gen ready advisory practice, not just for the next generation of clients, but also for the next generation of advisors. And I was so excited to be joined by special guest Chuck Fela. Chuck is the founder and CEO of Sovereign Financial Group. He's a board certified financial planner. He's an advocate for RIAs. If you've been following any of his work, he's also the host of the Go RIA segment with Investment News. And usually Chuck is interviewing me. So I'm excited to be interviewing Chuck today. Chuck, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Diana. I've been looking forward to this, and it's really nice to kind of switch roles sometimes. So thanks so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I'd love to dive right into the questions. Now, we're going to talk today about building this sort of, next gen ready financial advisory practice, something that you talk often about. And I always say, you are such an advocate for progressive advisors, for forward-thinking advisors. So what does it mean to you to really future-proof your practice, get it ready for next gen? And where does estate planning fit into that strategy?
Sure. So, the first thing, if you want to future-proof anything, and we're talking about your practice here, you have to give some thought to what you think the future is going to hold, right? Now, here's the good news. It's pretty simple right now, because I don't think anyone would push back on this. The most critical aspect of what's going to happen in the future of financial advice is the great wealth transfer, right? No one will doubt that. So you don't have to guess too much what the future is going to bring. The future is going to bring 60, 70, 75 trillion dollars worth of money changing hands. And those hands are going to go from me, right? So according to Cerulli, I'm the poster child for the average advisor, right? A 56-year-old white guy, to the next gen advisor. And it also means to the next gen clients. Now, what's the best way to bridge that and to make sure you're part of that wealth transfer is to be part of that wealth transfer, right? And what better way to do that than through estate planning? And that's exactly what we've adopted here at our shop, just to get our foot in the door, to make sure, and I don't want this to come across terribly crass, but the first time you introduce yourself to the next gen client, and we like to call them KOCs, kids of clients, should not be at mommy and daddy's wake, right? That should be the first time they know who you are. They should know who you are well in advance of that. And there's a lot of ways you can accomplish this. Estate planning, frankly, is one of the easier ways to at least get that started. Now, the challenge really becomes doing it in such a way that's not overly burdensome for the advisor. And I think we're going to talk about that as well.
Absolutely. We need to make it easy to integrate, right, into all the other million things that financial advisors do and have on their mind. Let's talk about this next generation of clients. You just made a really good point. Estate planning is such a great way to ensure you're part of this wealth transfer. If you're waiting until the funeral to introduce yourself, you're way too late, right? This needs to be happening a lot sooner. So what do these conversations look like, Chuck? If I'm an advisor and I'm trying to guarantee I'm part of this next, wealth transfer, what do these conversations look like with clients?
Sure. It's as easy as, what have you done for your estate planning so far?
Mm-hmm.
And when I bring up that conversation, and when we're kind of teaching our advisors the same thing, we look at it as two separate functions. The way we define it is estate organization, which everyone should do, and then estate planning, which the context of that, really the way we look at it, is estate tax planning or estate tax minimization planning. Not everyone needs that, but everyone does need at least estate organization. So what does that mean? Your basic wills and trust and healthcare proxies and so on and so forth. And that's a good starting point. As simple as, have you done anything for this? Right. And it is shocking. And I think there was another report. I'm not going to quote it because I don't have the numbers right, but it was maybe it was you guys that did this, like some shocking number of advisors that don't have estate plans, or even like the basics. It's just insane. And so just having that conversation with the client, number one, shows that you're concerned and interested, and it's also a huge value add. Then the other thing you could do too, which we found really interesting, and I just, have started to think about doing this myself. So my son just turned 18. He's the oldest of my two children. And I think it was with one of the presentations you guys had done, maybe on this here program, was the fact that, an 18-year-old needs some estate planning. I was like, what does my 18-year-old son need for estate planning? And it was, of course, that healthcare proxy. And I've been a financial advisor for 30 years, lost on me. I really was not thinking about that. And what was interesting is the point that was made was, he goes off to college, he gets hurt. I call the doctor. Doctor's like, I can't release information to you. I'm like, but that's my kid. Well, your kid's 18. He's an adult. She's an adult. So that's another great door opener. Your kid's going off to college. What a great opportunity to show some value. That's easy, right? And for us, I try to make as many things at our shop as single button as possible. So what we're developing is on our, Salesforce. You press a button, a template gets pre-populated, has a link on how they can set up their healthcare proxy, so on and so forth, a few disclaimers, off it goes.
Love that.
So I can go from you really should have a healthcare proxy for your son or daughter going off to college. They say yes. I click a button, done. It logs it, and I know that we've had that conversation. And it just really, first of all, you're doing your job, right? Number two, it really makes that relationship sticky. And number three, now that kid knows who Sovereign is, who we are. So I think it's a really valuable thing to do. And for me, I certainly love to get value, but I'm a big believer, and I know a lot of folks are too, that you have to deliver that value first. And what an easy way to deliver value. And the value you get in return is you've increased your chance, right? So what is the stat? You probably know this. I think it's something like 70 or 80% of children take their parents' account away from the advisor when their parents die.
Yep.
So let's look at the other way. That means like 20% stay.
Yep.
So how much does that pressing of a single button do? That shoots off the email with the link and tracks it onto the Salesforce. Pressing that button, I think, is going to bring our retention ratio certainly north of 20%. Does it bring it to 50%, 60%? Is that worth pressing a button? I would
Absolutely.
say it is.
And it's so much more than pressing a button. We can reduce it to that level of simplicity. And we're big about simplicity at Trust and Well. We create a lot of resources, pathways, email copy, social copy, anything that you can copy and paste as an advisor to check off this important box. We're pretty much handing it right over to you. So I love that example. I love, the technology side of it, the automation. We could have a whole show just about that. You and I know we're both technology enthusiasts. We're passionate about it. But I appreciate that. I think, again, it's a great approach to how can you have these conversations? What does it look like? In fact, on the note of, being a young adult and kind of covering some of this estate planning, healthcare proxy, Trust and Will also recently launched a young adult estate plan to hit on this exact need. And this was driven a lot, not just by our interfacing with consumers, but also with our advisors. We are hitting almost 20,000 advisors to date of working with us. And a lot of them have said, hey, I need something for this group here. I need something for this subset of clients, or KOCs, as you like to call it, my kids of my clients. And we delivered on that. So great tip. Let's talk a little bit about maybe why some financial advisors, I think we could really segment this into maybe some of the next gen advisors who are still trying to learn how this all works. Maybe those, who have been in it for 10 years, they're going RIA, maybe they're not. And then even some older advisors who know it's important, but their current system of outsourcing to an attorney is just not serving them or their clients anymore. What do you think is holding these advisors back? Like, in your experience, what was it initially that you were, I'm not really sure. What were you apprehensive of?
Yeah. So here's the thing. So when you refer them to an attorney, right? And we've certainly have done that and do still on occasions, but maybe a little less so now. Right. You're going to send them over. And I've always felt this about attorneys, right? And, if you're an attorney, bear with me, but here's the deal. For years, I was like, why does this, simple revocable trust cost thousands of dollars? And we couldn't find one that was going to do it much less than that, especially we serviced in large part the New York metro area. So you can imagine the pricing there. I was like, I'm pretty sure all these guys are doing is taking a Word document, taking out Bob, putting in Sue, and charging my client $3,000 or $4,000. And it really was that. So I was hesitant to have folks do that, and then they're like, "Well, geez, Chuck, this is $3,000 or $4,000." So not to necessarily plug the trusted will, but it was a great solution because for a fraction of that, we can offer it. Plus, it's easier. Like a lot of our clients have really adopted Zooms, right? We have a number of offices throughout the country, which I kind of wonder why, because we still do so much Zooms, but they love the idea of being able to do this online themselves um, at virtually no cost. The way we've done is we're absorbing the cost because it's so low and just doing it as part of our value add. And the other thing I would say on this is, don't worry about being an expert on this. Position yourself as whatever cliche you want to use, right? The quarterback, the general contractor. I use general contractor a lot.
I like that.
So mainly because I don't know sports as much. But if you're a general contractor, right, I don't need to know exactly what that electrician's doing. I just need to know where to go for that and some things you want to watch out for and give some general guidance that way. So this tech-enabled solution was really perfect for us. And something we were talking a little bit offline. One of our other vendors, which is a well-known financial planning software, they're doing something similar where you can send out a link, you press that link, and now the KOC, which I think is what it's really best for, is getting a lot of that work done. So I'm able to engage those KOCs with estate planning with you guys. I'm able to engage that KOC with financial planning with this other vendor, and that's now 2 clicks, right? Which I love. And then once it's established and all that, time intensive work, it's not like we don't pay any FaceTime with the KOC, but we're going to let them do a lot of the onboarding themselves. And, it saves us time. And frankly, these KOCs in particular, right? These 20 and 30-year-olds, they don't want to come in and see the 56-year-old guy. They rather just get a link and do it on their own time and then let the, the gray hair come in and walk them through it. It's like the best of both worlds. So it's a hyper efficient way to do it. And again, going back to where we started, those KOCs know who I am, know who Sovereign is way before that wealth transfer actually happens. And again, if we're looking in terms of getting that 20% retention up to 50, 70, 100%, this certainly is one of the best ways I can think of.
I also think it's an outstanding way for advisors to show their competence. I talk a lot about this to financial advisors. It's like if you want to build a brand or a business that's going to attract next generations of wealth, you have to make sure you're meeting all of these different groups of people where they are. And translating to, if they want to click a link, if they want to text you, if they want, they want to do things on their own, and then you kind of come in at the last minute, they don't want to start with the full lengthy 1-hour call. Like that's just not efficient for them, right? Keyword efficiency here. You need to make sure you have this built in. Like this is competence. And so I love that example of just making it streamlined. And that's what's attractive to the next generation. They want that. They crave that sort of digitally driven experience where when they need you, they can connect with you, but everything else is going to be a lot quicker and more streamlined. So great note on that, Chuck, as always. I know we're coming at time here, and I like to try to keep these under 10 minutes. I feel like you and I could go on and on and on. But maybe we'll just shift here into any like last minute thoughts that you have on estate planning being that relationship driver, whether it's for next gen advisors you're trying to attract to your business, for next gen clients, like anything that you want to leave our audience with today.
Yeah, I do. So here's what I would say, and I've been saying this a lot, especially as we're bringing on some younger advisors. And I think most of them have gotten the memo by now, but I'm kind of surprised that not all of them have. And it's the following. If you think you're going to define your value proposition because you're the advisor that's going to pick stocks and mutual funds better than the other advisor, good luck. That's not where this is going to go, right? Or be prepared to get new clients every single year because it's not going to take too long before they realize you're not beating the S&P, right? So why are they paying you for that? And here's the thing, they're not paying you for that. They're paying you for planning work. They're paying you for financial planning. And under financial planning, you have estate planning and cash flow planning and insurance planning and tax planning. I'm getting so excited, I'm knocking stuff over in my office here. But that's really what you need to focus on. It is not because you're going to pick stocks and mutual funds and be the world's best portfolio manager. That's not the case anymore. And it's certainly not the case for those KOCs that are going to be receiving those 70, 80 trillion dollars. They don't believe that you're going to pick stocks better than the S&P. You better make sure that they understand that you're going to be their go-to for all their planning needs.
Yep. I completely agree. That is a really good note to end on. I think it hopefully will leave our audience, being curious. How can I build something deeper? Because you are absolutely right. That is, a value prop of the past, and the future looks a bit different, more comprehensive. So, Chuck, I just want to say thank you for being such a great guest. You have so many good insights. I know we could keep going and going, but truly, I appreciate your take on the next gen, whether you're an advisor or you're a client, how we can reach them. And now using estate planning is such a good lever for that relationship. If you're still with us on our audience today, feel free, if you want to learn more about Trust and Will, if you're a financial advisor, you're looking to get some help with offering estate planning, maybe you're just taking those first few steps, there's a QR code here at the bottom of the screen. You can also go to trustandwill.com/advisors, and you can learn more and book a one-on-one demo and strategy session with our team free of charge. We'd love to chat with you. Chuck, thanks again for being on the show, and I hope to have a follow-up conversation with you in the near future on this topic.
Diana, I would love that, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon at some conference somewhere. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.